Hello, friends. Josh Bowe and Kirk Henderson joining you once again for another episode of Pod Maverick. This time, just a shade after Christmas has officially ended, and the Dallas Mavericks gave us a late Christmas present with an unbelievably fun Christmas Day nightcap where they defeated the Phoenix Suns 128-114. Luka Doncic scored his 10,000th point as an NBA player, while also casually dropping a 50 and 15 game. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Merry Christmas to you and everyone listening out there. Hope everyone had a pretty stress-free holiday. Got to watch some good hoops. I know the Mavericks playing the last game on the Christmas docket is a little tough for those of us that are already under the gun with sleep, but at least I didn't have to fight many family members to watch the game in the middle of the day. I think I would rather take the nightcap to end things when everyone's asleep in the house. And I'll stay up and we can talk some hoops. I know we're both this is a pretty fun game. We got some stuff to
I
talk
love
about.
that you said that, because when you're looking at this game, like, I don't know, middle of summer, you're like, oh yeah, because you and I both have small children. We're both like, oh yeah, we're going to be able to get done with Christmas stuff. We're going to be able to watch the game. And both of us, I'm a Christmas veteran at this point. We're both fucking stupid in the sense of what I did not build in was the fact that I wouldn't sleep last night. Where
Right.
My wife, my favorite thing, I love that Tiger Woods meme going around where it's like him going
The big dog. Yeah.
And I saw a tweet this morning where it says husbands thanking their wives for all the Christmas gifts they're just now learning about. And like, that was me. I'm not gonna lie. That was me at like 11:30 last night where my wife gives me this fort I have to build. And I'm like, wait, what? And so I was, it was about 3:30 in the morning. Baby didn't give a shit about sleep. And I'm sorry I'm cursing so much. I'm not that sorry, but I'm tangentially sorry. And man, so it's just like coming to this game, it was like 6:30 tonight. I remember I sent a message to Mavs group chat and I just said, like, I gotta stay up like 7 more hours. Are you kidding me? And the Mavericks gave us the kind of game that you want to stay up for, because I went through the full range of fan emotions. Well, let's kind of talk about the game and then we can talk about how we felt about it. So you were doing, I think, bedtime stuff during the first half, but Luka came out and was very, very this might have been, it's in the top 10 regular season performances from Luka Doncic. I don't know how to describe it, to where he was on early and he looked good and he did not let up. So he had some lapses defensively in this game, but first half in this game, he looked as strong defensively as I can remember him being, possession to possession. And I had a great time watching him, where at halftime, the Mavericks were only up 10 due to some late lapses, but Luka crossed the 10,000 point mark pretty early on in the game, getting that whole hullabaloo out of the way. He only needed to score 11 points. Incredible story up on MavsMoneyball.com from our guy Isaac. If you want to read it, he turned in 1,800 words on how Luka scored 10,000 points. I was not expecting that. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit wired right now. And then the second half happened. And why don't you tell us what happened in the third quarter, Josh?
Grayson Allen hit 1,000,000 3-pointers. The Mavericks gave up the lead that they worked so hard to get in the first half. I can't even say his name. Metu from the Suns. I mean, both of those guys had insane games overall, but in the third quarter particularly, they kind of just torched the Mavericks, their game plan was obviously let anyone but Booker or Durant beat us. And in the third quarter, you could see how that strategy can maybe backfire a little if you let Allen's not a terrible shooter, so they just kept helping off him, and he just kept making them. And they turned to what looked like was going to be a blowout, I thought, in the first half into a real dogfight.
So let's talk some brass tacks here. Do you really think?
Oh, the Grant. I know you wanted to get to. Did you want to get to the Grant Williams stuff?
No. I mean, it's included in that. Beyond the fact that Grant Williams. Please stop. We'll return to Grant Williams.
Okay.
Just for the record, Grant Williams, please stop. And you know what I mean. Everybody who watches this game knows what I mean. You don't get to instigate and talk trash when you have more fouls than statistical contributions. Anyway, I'm wondering, just from you're ball. Let's just be clear. You have a very good eye for strategy. It's one of the things that you bring to our site and to this podcast, which I have a harder time doing in a first pass. Do you think that their commitment to stopping Booker and Durant, or do you think Booker and Durant were bad?
I think I would take a little column A, a little column B. I thought Durant was incredibly passive. He only had 11 shot attempts, and I know he got doubled a lot, but he had 6 turnovers and 7 assists and 6 turnovers. And a lot of those turnovers were out of doubles. So if he wasn't going to score a lot, his passing was not good enough. At least Booker had a pretty bad shooting game, but he had 10 assists and 3 turnovers. He handled the doubles pretty well passing wise. He just couldn't get a shot to fall. Durant couldn't get a shot to fall, and he handled the double teams very poorly. And so I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, if the Mavericks probably single guarded those guys the whole game, they probably would have had a different stat line. But still, I think Durant, he just played a really passive game. It was really weird, and it was especially funny coming off of the ESPN report from earlier in the day about how Durant is apparently frustrated with the lack of help on the Suns roster, and then he comes out and shoots 4 of 11, has 16 points. Meanwhile, 2 of his role player teammates, Grayson Allen and Metu, have career nights. So I thought that was pretty. I thought that was cosmically pretty funny for that all to happen in one day. But yeah, this was one of. Let's be real. We've watched Durant a lot.
Yeah,
one of the worst games I've ever seen him play, I think.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna ride this high, and I'm gonna talk my shit because I had a lot of fun watching this game, but I couldn't help but think that there was a bit of quicksand going on with guys sort of not digging out, and it could have been a blowout except for the Grayson Allen of it all. Now, the Mavericks do deserve some credit there. I really thought there were moments where they absolutely flew around like crazy on defense.
For sure.
But it also felt like, to a degree, what do you have? Oh my God, my dog has my wife's Christmas present. I'll be right back.
Yeah, defensively, yeah. They had some moments. It was hot or cold. I think they gave up way too many corner threes, but thankfully the Suns didn't make them pay. The Suns only shot 4 of 16 on corner threes. You give up 16 corner 3 attempts in a game, that's usually not great news. So that wasn't great, but they got lucky with the Suns missed them. But I thought Luka had some real. This was probably one of Luka's best defensive games of the year, and I thought Jones also did a decent job when he was in single coverage against Durant, and there wasn't a double. Durant got him a couple times, but didn't get him a lot. Obviously, he only made 4 shots. So I thought those 2 in particular were pretty good. Lively coming back. Hey, Lively's back. What a difference having Lively is. Just immediately comes back and has a 20-10 game. So that was cool. So yeah, there were some weak spots defensively, but I thought Luka, Lively, and Jones all had pretty good moments. Luka had 4 steals and 3 blocks. I don't think he's ever done that before.
7 stocks. I bet he has never done that in an NBA game before.
I bet he's never done that since he was 13 or something. That was pretty crazy. He had some good stops against Booker too. They switched. Luka got switched onto Booker a couple times, and Booker couldn't get past him. It was pretty clear from tip. You said this before. Luka was pretty jacked up for this game. He was absolutely ready from opening tip to final buzzer. His focus and attention to detail and effort level. Not trying to say that it's it's bad normally, but it was just he was he was kind of on another plane of existence when this game started, and you could just sense it from the opening tip, I think.
Well, and see, I by and large try not to give a care about like media narratives. But this was one of those games where it's just ESPN has such like Mad Lib style decision making on the things they're going to talk about. Where Luka passes 10,000 points, I don't think they talked about it at halftime, and maybe it became a thing as the game wore on. But it's such a focus on like the old stars and what the Suns were doing to where we didn't have enough time to talk about Luka Doncic. And I want to give like that credit here because Luka Doncic does not get to do what Devin Booker does. I'm sorry. What was Devin Booker's final line?
20 points, 10 assists, 3 rebounds.
Not a bad line.
No.
Not a bad line. Not a superstar, a NBA, all NBA first team player, or MVP candidate line. It is a above average line for a team's best player on a run-of-the-mill mediocre team, which is what the Suns are. And I'm sorry, Luka Doncic has a game like that on Christmas Day. That's the story for 2 days about how Luka is, it's just the nature of this stuff. And usually I don't care, but I wanted a full-throated celebration of Luka at a time when he was kicking ass because he went out there as the best player on the court with Kevin Durant, a future Hall of Famer, and just kicked their asses. There's really no other way around it. Yeah. I mean, I was going to wait till after our immediate break to talk about Luka, but we're just going to do it right now because Luka Doncic scored 50 points and had 15 assists. So just doing some basic math here, guys, assuming all of Luka's 15 assists were for 2-point shots, okay? 2-point shots only, and that's not what they were. Luka Doncic was played a part in 80 of the Mavericks' 128 points. That's special. That's MVP kind of stuff, period. I know people, I know Embiid's going to win it because this is a narrative award and nobody works the media like that ass clown. But this is a MVP type performance from an MVP caliber player. And I just want to crow about it. It's fantastic. Couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. He had 8 made threes and 12 made free throws, which I mean, this is kind of obscure, but has he ever had a game in the NBA where he's had a combined 20 made threes and free throws? He might have.
Oh, I could have killed Mavs Moneyball contributor SJ, who said, well, if Luka's hitting threes and hitting free throws, we're going to win this game. And I'm like, Jinx. You don't say that out loud. What kind of mad woman are you? But it's
what it looks like when he's doing that. I mean, it's just unstoppable. 8 of 16 from 3, 12 of 12 from the free throw line. That was pretty awesome. The MVP thing is interesting. Like, he's absolutely MVP worthy. Like, that's not a question. His stat line is great. The Mavericks are 18-12. So they're currently 5th in the West when, most prognosticators had them either in the play-in or outside of the play-in entirely. So, I mean, he's obviously worthy. The thing that's going to be tough is, love or hate Embiid, he has the numbers, and his team is 20-9.
Yeah, well, you know what? He skipped today's Christmas game, and I saw from the Twitter account, I think it was Brick Muse, where it said DNP Miami.
Yeah, I know.
Luka doesn't skip the tough games, and I'm sorry, Embiid does.
No, I know, but I think
I'm going to talk my shit because I'm correct. And if you want to argue with me, go look at the fucking game log.
No, go do it. But I'm just thinking, realistically, if he's going to win MVP this year, the Mavericks probably need to get, I would say, bare minimum, they need to be top 4. Maybe they need to be top 3. Like, if they're right behind the Nuggets and the Wolves, or if they're right around them, then I think, he finishes the season strong. Because let's be frank, like, he's had some pretty crazy October, November, December runs in the last couple of years. And then March, April, maybe late February, some things don't look as great as how it started. So he needs to finish the season strong, which he hasn't really done in a couple of years, especially after last season. People are going to hold that against him. And then they need to finish with, at least home court advantage in the West, because I know Jokic won MVP as a 6th seed in 2021.
That's
but
not happening anymore.
Yeah, that's just when that happened because I think they were tired of giving it. They didn't want to give it to Giannis again. And there wasn't really another great candidate because it wasn't like there weren't a lot of dominant teams. Like the Suns were the best team in the NBA, but they were very they were kind of the sum is more, the parts are bigger than the whole or whatever. So there's too many good candidates this year between Jokic himself, between Shea, Embiid, Giannis again. There's just too many good candidates for Luka to be able to win it if he's not in the top 3 in the West.
I'm being an asshole here in large part because of how these conversations take place. Okay, what Joel Embiid is doing, if you're watching, it's terrifying. He's playing unbelievably good basketball. He did not deserve to win the MVP last year. Let me be clear. He was a clown fraud and talked his way into that award. But he's playing better now than he did last season.
I know he's doing all the things that he
all the shit that he taught. Yes, I think you take away his free throws, he still might be close to leading the league in scoring. He's doing some insane stuff. So but what drives me crazy about the conversations is that we're going to finally start to talk. Collective media, will finally start to talk about Luka once he's had a downturn or something. Why can't? He has scored 30 points or more in 13 of the last 14 games. He's been unreal. And it's not that I want the media attention. I always tell, I'm in a variety of group chats. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather walk softly and carry a big stick. But it's the sort of odd disdain at key moments where it's like, well, what does Kevin Durant feel about this? Kevin Durant's one of my favorite players I've ever watched. He's also a journeyman at this point who has hurt his own reputation by changing teams so many times. By nobody cares about his titles. So it's why can't we talk about the guy who's up and coming? And yeah, Luka's still up and coming. Sorry. Pretty sure he's 24 years old unless I can't do math.
Yeah, I know. It's stuff that's not his fault. It's not Luka's fault that he was the betting preseason favorite 4 years in a row, which causes media people to be like, well, we thought he was going to win it 2 years ago. We thought he was going to win it 3 years ago. And he didn't. And it's it's almost like a weird self-fulfilling prophecy from the media side of it. But that's not, Luka didn't ask to be that. He can't control who's the preseason favorite to win MVP, which then hurts his narrative when he doesn't win it. So again, it's just, numbers wise, stuff on the court. Literally, he's done more. He's done everything he can possibly do to be a front runner for the award. The Mavericks are good. He's great. He's had a historic month of December. He's been good all season. The team's winning. They're 18-12 after they had 38 wins last season. They're off to one of their best starts in team history. I know they kind of the last 10 or 15 games haven't been as good as the first 10 or so games, but they started the season strong and after last season's disappointment. So, you really can't ask for anything more. Maybe the only thing that he probably need a couple of more games like this, either national TV wins or just wins against good. They haven't really beaten good teams. So he probably needs a couple more of those to really. Friend
of me of the pod and betting analyst Matt Moore of the Action Network said this is the best Mavericks regular season win to date. And
I think it is. It might be.
If they had kicked the shit out of the Lakers and held on to that lead in Los Angeles, that probably would have been the other deciding one. But this one's pretty rough. Let me read you a stat here, Josh. Per the NBA PR account, Dallas's Luka Doncic, 50 points, is the fourth player to score at least 50 points in a game on Christmas Day. Bernard King had 60 in 1984. Wilt Chamberlain had 59 in 1961. Rick Barry had 50 in 1996. Luka Doncic, 50 in 2023. So for those of you who can do math, it is the first 50-point game in 39 years.
It's pretty crazy. Anytime you're on a list with Bernard King and Wilt Chamberlain, because they've got some pretty nutty stats and records from back in the day, that's pretty impressive. Well, especially that's nuts.
And look at the chat here. Shout out to I can't even say my man's name here. Fantasista Zero. Luka Doncic, fastest to 10K in scoring in the regular season since Michael Jordan.
I can't believe he beat LeBron on that. That's crazy.
by like 10 solid games.
Yeah. It's like it's so weird because it's like he's only 24, but it feels like he's 30 because he's just been a professional for so long, and it's been like clockwork. Like it feels like he's so old because he's been all NBA basically since his second season. Like there wasn't that like he had a rookie season that was better than expectations, and then since then he's been a top 5 player in the NBA. Like there was no like he needed like like you look at someone like Shea, who's awesome. I love Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He still needed like a couple. He needed a handful of seasons before he got kind of plateau. Not plateau, but till he reached where he is now. Like even Steph Curry needed a couple years. Like it's just the how instantaneous Luka has been is both incredible and also I feel like almost like a detriment to how people think about him because now he's like it's just so common. Like it's just bizarre. It's crazy how he makes these improbable things just feel really probable. If that makes sense.
Okay. We're at the point in the podcast, well past the point in the podcast, where I'm algorithmically supposed to suggest that you all do us all a favor. Go hit that like on the stream. At the moment, we're at something hilarious. Let me just go check the number because it makes me laugh. We are at 46 likes. There's 370 of you in this room at the moment. If you could do me a favor and go hit that like, each and every one of you, that would be a big favor to me. If you could also consider subscribing to the Pod Maverick podcast. Josh and I, or one of us, tends to go live almost after every single game. We're rounding into the new year here, and now that there are no longer holidays, I've realized this over the last week that basketball is actually what gets me through the seasonal seasonal sadness disorder, because it's dark, it's cold, it's boring, the sun sets early. I watch basketball and then I talk about it with you. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And also, please consider leaving a comment on the actual video when we're done here tonight. Josh and I will probably tap out here in the next 15 minutes, and then I will stay hosting, and you can come talk to me about this game if you want to stay up until the all hours of the morning and talk hoops. I have nothing to do. I don't know if I'm working tomorrow. We're going to assume that I'm working tomorrow, and then I'll slam like a Red Bull at like 7 in the morning and be fine. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, guys. Cannot appreciate it enough. Okay, so what else are like the real like positive things? We can talk about the frustrating things, I think, at some point, but there's just a lot to be delighted about, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Lively 20 and 10. I wish he was on a minutes restriction, which I'm not a medical trainer, so I'm not really going to give 2 cents there. But it was a little bit of a shame because he started the game, I think, 7 points in like the first 4 to 5 minutes, like just doing the thing that we've talked about that's so impressive, catching in the 4-on-3 off doubles and finishing and scoring instead of just making that auto pass, like being able to catch the ball at the free throw line and then score, which is just like none of us thought he had that in his bag his rookie season. Like to him developing that so quickly has just been incredible because he did not do that in Duke like at all. So that was pretty awesome. And then he got taken out with about 8 minutes left in the first quarter. So I almost feel like, he played 32 minutes, so still played a decent amount, but almost felt like he could have had an even bigger game if he maybe wasn't on a minutes restriction. But again, I'm not gonna double, armchair quarterback or Monday morning quarterback medical staff decisions because I'm just way out of my league there. But he was awesome. I mean, 10 rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds. His offensive rebounds were huge. Felt like they were big momentum plays. Just his ability when Luka is doubled to be the finisher and the direct finisher, not like getting a hockey assist and then finish, like Luka directly getting him the ball and then scoring is just a game changer for this offense, and it just makes a big difference. And then, of course, his size near the basket helps as well. The Mavericks defense wasn't incredible, but the Mavericks outscored the Suns in the paint, and the Mavericks do not outscore teams in the paint very often. So he was a sight for sore eyes. I mean, he was great.
So I'm going to talk about one more Luka thing I forgot to talk about, but it's in relation to Lively. So you talked about how often Kevin Durant was doubled. We saw tonight the difference between a Luka Doncic pass and a Kevin Durant and Devin Booker pass out of a double team. Luka simply puts the ball where the guy can catch it. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker put it within range of their teammates being able to hopefully grab it. And there is such a decided difference in a game with this much athleticism, meaning the NBA basketball game, that it's hard to contextualize unless you're watching like possession after possession after possession where you see it. There were a couple of times where Luka is standing near what in my brain I always think of as like the volleyball line, like well extended from the 3-point line, where he hits Lively in the hands as Lively makes himself available, maybe 6 feet away from the rim. And the kind of trust it takes to throw that pass and the confidence and ability to catch that pass is extraordinarily underrated. Josh and I are lapsed big men. When you fuck that pass up, you don't get it thrown to you again.
No. He's earned his trust for sure.
Yes.
It's crazy.
And he catches it time and again. And he had one real high one that bobbled. And it's like, I remember yelling at the TV. I was like, come on, catch that. And I'm like, wait, the 7-footer tried to pull it down like he was, trying to do the catch when it's Joe Montana in like 1983. And it's like, okay, maybe it was a little high for him.
He also only had one turnover. So like
that was the turnover. That was the one. And it's just that sort of thing is so remarkably underappreciated. We have these Twitter accounts, and I'm just going to be a shit tonight. I don't care. Like local clown show Ball Don't Stop, who is talking about how OJ Mayo is a bucket despite putting up 6 points per game in a Egyptian league in 2021. The kind of skill I just described is what makes a difference in an NBA game, not bullshit ball handling and throwing up terrible shots and shooting 39%. Sorry. It's the difference, and it's why we talk about this stuff, and it's why people who do discuss basketball can sometimes do so in a really disdainful way because it's not appreciated enough, and it's also not explained enough. What Lively did, he hit tonight. One of the closing buckets that he hit tonight was like a 7 or 8 foot kind of turnaround hook that you're looking at that and you're like, that's such an easy shot, because I don't think anybody was near him. I think he was just sort of giving it to him, and he chose to take it, and it just splashed right through. And I giggled with glee because Brandon Wright might be the only Maverick that I've seen hit a shot like that in my time, really. I mean, not even Tyson. Tyson didn't do stuff like that.
I mean, that area of the floor is like commonly referred to as like the dead zone, like not right at the rim, but not like at the like in between the free throw line and the rim. Like it's difficult. Like there's traffic, there's people near you. Like, it's kind of it can be an awkward shot. So yeah, he's doing that. That's pretty great.
I love him. I love him. I hold him to such high standards.
This is why you draft. This is why this is why you want draft picks. I know that they're not automatic, but like you just want that bite at the apple.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm very much like Renee Zellweger and Jerry Maguire, where she's talking about him and he's off camera. We're like, I love him. I do. I can't help it, man. I cannot help it because it's so much more than we ever could have wished for. And I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier about it. What else are we thinking?
We got to, Derrick Jones Jr., 23 points from a Mavericks role-playing wing. And it wasn't on a bunch of spoon-fed spot-up threes is pretty unheard of in the Luka Doncic era. I mean, he attacked the rim pretty aggressively and in a way that like he's been doing it now all season, that it's obviously like a thing. Like this isn't like a flash in the pan. Everyone kind of knew his 3-point shooting would cool off, especially because he was making a lot of above the break threes early on. But like his ability to attack closeouts and do stuff around the basket is pretty impressive. He was 4 of 7 in the restricted area, 2 of 3 in the paint. I mean, 7 shots at the rim. Like, I mean, it's another site for think about how many times we've been on this podcast after a Mavericks game, and it's like no one knows how to drive. Like no one on the roster can drive, and it makes a big difference. And again, it's not like it's not like they need someone to make a play, like, running offense or setting up someone for an assist. It's just, can you when a defender's running at you, can you dribble past him? Like that's not as crazy of an NBA skill that some people make it out to be, which is why it was so frustrating to see the Mavericks roster lacking so much of it. And so he's been a breath of fresh air for sure, the way he can do that.
And this is not to take anything away from him. The Suns had no rim protection.
No.
That was but that's a tactical decision where they could have played who was it? They could have played Drew Eubanks more than 17 minutes. They chose not to. And the Mavericks being able to take advantage of a tactical choice by the Suns that would put them at a detriment is so important. So is he going to do that against Minnesota? Probably not. Okay. I don't care right now. I don't care. It
doesn't matter.
It's just like everybody that gets really hell-bent on like building a contender right now. I want to put that idea to rest for a day or a week or a month, because going from winning 38 games to the trend that the Mavericks are on right now kicks ass. And these wins where Derrick Jones Jr. is the emphatic, put back dunk of a point is so important. He was great. He really was great. Like he had a finish. Him and Luka, obviously 50 points. You love it. Okay. but what were if we were to go by the play-by-play in the fourth quarter, I'm wondering, I need to go look at this. Cause again, I was kind of like screaming at the TV.
Luka was, he was passing for most of the fourth quarter.
It also dawns on me as we're talking that I signed up to write the stats post. Love when I forget the things as an editor in chief that I forget I'm going to do. Luka gets a pair of free throws at the 4-minute mark to put him up by 7. You get a lively dunk, a Derrick Jones Jr. Layup, Derrick Jones Jr. free throw, Tim Hardaway dunk, Derek Lively 8-foot floating jump shot, Luka Doncic 11-point shot when the game's out of hand. Like Luka Luka orchestrated that. He's important, but the other guys closed the door on the Suns. And I just find that extremely important.
Yeah. It was, and especially like Jones is like literally the last signing of your offseason veteran minimum deal. It's just crazy the way that that's worked out for them. And I'm just glad, it's just nice to see them move on from just, hey, everyone that's around Luka is just going to be a standstill spot up guy. You don't have to have a lot of juice playing next to Luka to get downhill and get some easy buckets at the rim. You just need a little bit. And then that's what Jones has. And it's really fun. It's really fun to watch. And it was cool that he was able to do that. Exum finally had a normal game, even though when he was on the floor, the team still played well, but statistically he kind of had a back down to earth game. So for Jones to do what he did was great. And this was kind of a new look starting lineup, by the way, too. I don't know if this lineup has started before. So, and Kid talked about starting lineups and rotation stuff before the game. So we kind of got a peek, I think, into what the team might be looking like going forward, even when Kyrie and Josh Green get healthy. Because Tim Hardaway Jr. started. Grant Williams did not. First game, Grant Williams did not start this season. Came off the bench. Also, Mavericks basically didn't play a backup 5. They played Grant as the backup 5. When Grant was in the game, he was the 5.
Which they can't do. They can't do that. They can probably do it half the night.
They can get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can get away with it in a game like today. But yeah, they can't get away with that against the Nuggets. But honestly, with the way they're playing when they try to go match size with size against those bigger teams, it hasn't worked. So why not, right? They might be leaning into what this team's good at, and maybe they've stopped fooling themselves thinking that this could be a defensive minded team, because we both know that that's how Kidd would prefer to have his roster. He's a defense first coach, but I wonder if they're, not to say they're waving the white flag on being a better defensive team, but they might just be like, look, we're getting killed anyway, so let's just play our 5 most productive players on the court as often as possible, even if that means we're going to be even smaller than we were before.
Yeah, and there's going to be a time where we circle back on this discussion and we're talking about how small the Mavericks are.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact.
Right.
I choose not to do that during moments of joy.
Oh, yeah.
People
No, it's fine.
rightfully get very upset with me for my takes in games. But if you're watching at a sports bar with me, if you're not having the same reaction, if you're like, "Oh, this is fine. I'm passively watching this game." Okay, that's not how I watch sports. But when it comes to like the wins and losses, like we'll circle back on these things. We'll circle back on the fact that Grant Williams is bad.
Yeah.
But not today. I don't really want to do it today. He knows he needs to do better. He knows he needs to not be admitting, maybe he doesn't know that because again, I can't emphasize enough. The funniest moment in recent NBA history that I watched live was Grant Williams talking shit and saying he was going to hit 2 free throws only to miss them both. The second funniest thing might have been Devin Booker screaming at his teammates and it getting picked up on a hot mic tonight about how they didn't get back on defense. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was pretty good. What did he say? He was like, you turned the ball over and now you're not getting.
You're just not going to get back. And it's like, you're not getting back for me. And it's like, yeah, leader of men there type stuff, Devin. Just real big, Man. What an enjoyable contest. I mean, the Mavericks ran a playoff rotation tonight.
Yeah. 6-man rotation for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. You look through it, and that's going to catch up with them. But again, Kyrie Irving comes in, solves some of these problems. We're eventually gonna have to talk about the Kyrie thing because I think Luka cannot keep doing this.
No.
But they had there's this weird sort of Kai can do this at any moment, and no, he can't. Sorry, they're not on the same level. Different guys.
Right, but he doesn't have to do this. He just needs to be the secondary guy. Just so Luka is not playing 45 minutes a night and having to literally do everything on offense. So that's the luxury. He doesn't have to try to match Luka's production. He just needs to be just someone else that can do some stuff every now and then.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. And that's actually probably helpful because it extends Kyrie's longevity and it extends Luka's longevity while there's an actual discussion, and that's fine. And I have no idea if they would think differently about this. A lot of this stuff comes down to fan discussions where people take their sides like it's a political debate. And I'm not super interested in that. But we're inching towards that point because again, Luka MVP type stuff, just really magnificent. I don't know. Should we just sort of close it out there and then I'll go on to the other show? Is there anything else you want to talk about? How's Christmas?
Christmas was good. We had Megan's, my wife's family, her parents and her sister came over to our house, so we didn't have to leave the house.
Nice.
Which was nice, but hey, it's a busy day. I cannot wait to get into bed, but I had a great day. You're tired.
You should go to bed. Yeah. It's very important. I didn't wear it on the show tonight because my kids, it feels good. It looks great. And Clint, our guy Clint, who writes for Mavs Moneyball every great now and again. Shout out Clint, write more. He told me I need to shave my head and start talking about how I'm just watching the team. But I just, it's just nice Christmas. My kid got far too much stuff. That is what it is.
Yeah. We need to get you on one of these shows where you're wearing that.
Oh, I will.
Zip
I had it on. He just
with the kid glasses.
He spit up all over. It was wet, across me. And I was like, okay, I'm not wearing that. I'm having to explain it. All right. So Josh and I are going to break here for 30 seconds. And then I'm going to come back. I guess it's closer to a minute. Then I'm going to come back with our other live show. For those of you who are listening on the podcast a little later, be looking for this show probably on Tuesday afternoon. We'll be back. We're going to keep recording these shows. There's lots of Mavs game to be played. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And we will be talking soon. Everybody enjoy your night. Please hang around and come talk basketball with me. Go Mavs. right, friends, welcome to Pod Maverick presents. What is the name of this show? It is Mavs Party. It's about 1:11 in the morning on December 26th. My name is Kirk Henderson. I'm editor-in-chief over at MavsMoneyball.com. Josh Bowe and I just closed out a rather spirited discussion about the incredibly fun Dallas Mavericks 128-114 win. For those of you who are still hanging out in the live show, I just posted a link in the comments to a StreamYard application. StreamYard is a very easy to use program where you just click in and it's almost like joining the Works Zoom or whatever else you want it to be, where you can come and talk basketball with me, ask me a question, get off takes about the game, tell me why I suck. I don't really care. I just want to talk hoops with you guys a little more. I'm not ready to go to sleep. I'm not ready to get on the internet and go talk ball with Suns fans. I don't want to argue tonight. I just want to enjoy this kind of win. So we're here, we're hanging out. I usually have some folks that come on up and talk basketball. Brian, maybe you'll be joining me soon. Jason, I see you from the old chat there that we used to have up on what was it, Spotify Live, but we're here. All right, so I got Brian hanging out with me late. He's going to come up first. So folks, please look for the pinned comment in the chat. Click on that, come up, and we will talk. All right, Brian, welcome. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. How are you doing, buddy?
Merry Christmas to you. Man, I couldn't be better. We just witnessed an all-time performance. We just witnessed probably Luka's greatest regular season game ever.
What are the other contestants? I really can't. I was like trying to think about it, and I'm like, the 60-20-10 game, I think, is the other one. What else are we missing?
I don't know. I really think that's the one. Because I'm pretty sure that was like some Celtics game where he had like 40
him beating the Celtics always feels great.
Yeah, and it's usually because he does it with a buzzer beater too. That's why it always feels more fun. But yeah, no, I don't think I can think of one. The 60-point game is the only real contender, and even then, we were playing soft and getting our ass kicked by the Knicks for most of that game and managed to come back. This game, he was carving the Suns up from whistle to final buzzer.
That's probably right. I mean, that game, there was something about the flow of this game that felt less labored. I'm not sure how to describe it because like that was that was like the fourth or the fifth game of Luka's absolutely banana stretch where he was just carrying so much. There are elements of this game, and Josh and I just talked about it, where it felt like he got, and it's not just a feeling, he literally got significant contributions from some of his teammates that helped make that game feel, because it was 60 points, 20 rebounds, and 10 assists. Getting 15 helpers tonight, and he had some to Derek Jones Jr. that could have, like, just Jones was just missing wide open shots earlier in the game. I mean, Luka could have had 22 assists, something like that.
Yeah, and I think that, who was it? God, it might have been Jason Gallagher that was on the timeline. Like, man, Luka should get a Nobel Peace Prize for continuing to pass to these guys. And thank God he did, because Derek Jones came up huge in the second half. Man, he was so good. Like, I don't want to take the shot completely off of Luka too early, but
no. Let's talk Derek. Like we get it. Like I just talked about Luka for a while. Luka will continue to get his shine. We can circle back to it, but I think the Derek Jones Jr. and the kind of other guy factor element really needs to be discussed.
Dude, like Dante Exum, at least defensively, he was really good too on Booker. Had an off night as far as playmaking. He was making some weird decisions on the move, but Derek Jones, dude, the job he did on Kevin Durant defensively, and then to do that, and then also in the second half, like have some shame and score like 20 points. I think he had in the second half, something like that. Because I know he ended with 23.
I remember hearing 23 being like, when did that happen? Right. Oh, here's where it happened, all over the place.
He was, dude, just catching the ball on the wing, catching and going. Attacking closeout, getting to the rim, being able to score on the move, getting inside, getting to the free throw line, eventually starting to knock down some open shots. I believe he hit a big one, I want to say either at the end of the half or at the end of the third quarter that kind of got him going. And off of a Hardy assist, no less, which is funny.
That was a great. I've been such a vehement hater of Hardy. That was a great play and pass.
Yeah,
it was in the shooting pocket. Derek Jones had very little else that he needed to do other than go through his shooting motion.
I was very proud of that kid in that moment, man. I was like, yeah, that's a grown up decision. I appreciate you, Jay.
That's right,
dude. If we could just get a little more of that, the few times he has to have the ball for more than 2 seconds, we might be talking about something. But we're probably a ways away from that. But
sure.
Derek was awesome. Other Derek was awesome. Like, I knew he was gonna have to have a big game once we heard that Nurk was out. Honestly, Nurk's a wuss anyway, so I would expect Lively to have a big game regardless. But especially once we knew that he was out. Now, I'm not all that happy with how not just Lively, like Grant, all of our other centers that played in the first half, like Chemezi Metu, just do whatever you wanted on the boards. I'm not pleased with that. But in the fourth quarter, when we needed to get stops, Derek and Luka and Dante Exum, they were lockstep, man. And it was just really cool to see. And then Luka just deciding, okay, you're going to double me? Fine. You're going to close off all the driving lanes for my teammates? Fine. They're just going to get the ball back to me, and I'm just going to hit another three right in your face. And we're just going to do this until the game ends.
The one in the one in the first quarter that came off a dribble handoff on the left wing with two guys flying at him was the most Dirk Nowitzki disgusting kind of shot. Like I sent it to a friend of mine who's a big time Lakers fan, and I was like, this is the most Kobe looking shot I've seen him take in a while, just because it was like pure arrogance. I'm gonna hit this shot, and he buries it. And my friend Dummin says back to me, he's like, oh, now it's good to be like Kobe. And I'm like, all right, like laser show, relax. Like I'm just like Luka takes all kinds of like shots that make me angry, but his shot was butter tonight.
Oh yeah.
This is a ridiculous like dad based statement I'm going to make. I want to look at his home road splits after about 20 games to see if he's shooting better when he doesn't have to do baby stuff in the middle of the night. Yeah. Like, realistically, like let's be clear, the probable eventual billionaire doesn't have to do his own nighttime baby stuff, but it's still hard. And so it's like if he's not having to do it on the road, I'm curious if that affects his play. But like he's just I'm really leaning into the Luka of it all because he's so preposterous to watch. I just don't know what to do sometimes.
Yeah, no, dude. Like I'll talk to or be in like playback spaces or like having back and forth on Twitter with like people who are way smarter than me about basketball. Like I was talking or listening to the Kai Duncan podcast with Steve Jones Jr.
Sure. Great show. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, probably the pound for pound most basketball. If you want to learn stuff, like even if you're a hardcore guy, and I am, but there's so much I don't understand. That's probably the single best show to watch or listen to.
Yeah, a lot of well-meaning, non-agenda carrying basketball talk.
Right.
I love those guys
explaining stuff. It's great.
Yeah, and like I'm in their playbacks a lot during games. And Nikias was talking about the different guys he had on his MVP ballot. It had to be like a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. And where he had Luka, I think he had Luka, might have been fourth, fifth, something like that, maybe third. I don't know. He was like right behind Shea. And when he was talking about it, the way he was explaining it, obviously the numbers look good. The team is having success right now. You know, you can't really poke holes in that. There are some questionable losses here and there, but the thing that was kind of puzzling him, and I can understand, you know, why at first glance it would, the on-off numbers looking kind of funky with Luka this year. And my response to that is usually when you get a game like this, it's like, okay, I hear you about the on-off numbers looking a little funky, like with how the team is having success, you know, when he's off the court.
Right.
But when you factor in a lot of that happened earlier in the season when we had Kyrie and we were running out all the offensive players we could outside of Luka in lineups where he wasn't out there. You know, it'd be Kyrie, Tim, Josh, whatever other center that we had. and then we would send Luka back in with the scrub and say, make magic happen. And usually he would. And then you get games like this where if he sits a minute longer than he did, we lose this game in embarrassing fashion to Grayson Allen having 30 points, right? And so, like, when it comes to performances like this, I'm not really trying to hear about his on-off numbers. Like, look at what he's doing on the court. Look at how efficient he's being, right?
Yeah.
Look at how much everyone on the team is relying on him and how much he's carrying them through. Because if he, honestly, even if he has the same process all game long and just a few of his shots don't fall in the first half, we're out of this game by the second quarter.
You know, two thoughts kind of come to mind there. First, I think this might have been one of 7 stocks, so steals and blocks in a game. Individual markers like that defensively aren't always the best teller of how good a game defensively a player has. But if you're trying to explain to someone that this was one of Luka's finer defensive performances, that's kind of a thing I think you'd point to. Mm-hmm. But it can't be understated how valuable he was at times, where even the commentators, which, like, I'm sorry, ESPN, ABC all day long, really not my favorite, just across the board.
I watched the game on mute.
just not my favorite. You know, no one in particular, just not my favorite. And the Luka probably he shut down Booker a couple of times, and it was just like, oh, Luka can do this. And it's a reminder, because you get a lot of fans, friends, haters, whatever you want to call them, people in your life that are like, Luka doesn't play defense. Most of the time, they're right. Today, man showed up and played in those, you know, you said he was resting one more minute. It would have made a difference. I agree with you. I really agree with you. This is the kind of MVP level performance and prime time where it's just like Luka, you know, when Luka, like, I want to say it was like a Denver game, like the very first Denver game of the year. I remember being like, Luka, why are you doing this? Stop embarrassing me on like live television, because he had a number of turnovers on the
IST court, man.
Then he comes out tonight. It's just 50 points. I'm going to be really, really mean to everybody who talks shit to me over the next 24 hours. Just letting everybody know it's the way it goes.
And then people act like it's a fluke, like what we were talking about as far as where the team and Luka in particular really hunkered down was in the fourth quarter. This is what they were doing regularly the first 8-9 games of the season. Yes. This isn't an isolated incident. I can go back to, people remember, and they should, that ridiculous 3-point hook shot that he hit against Brooklyn to win that game. What people don't talk about enough is before that happened, Mikal Bridges tried to ISO on Luka 3 separate times, and he shut that shit down 3 possessions in a row. Like, doing shit like that. He's done that multiple times this season, and people just don't talk about it.
It's truly wild. It's truly wild. Brian, I've commandeered a lot of your time. Do you have anything else you want to get off? And then I'm gonna head to some of the other folks who are hanging out.
No, I'm glad to be on, dude. I'm just excited for Kyrie to get back.
Yes, can we do it already?
Excited for Josh and Maxey to get back.
Yes, I also love like Kyrie. Just, you remember, you're old enough for this, like where David Stern started to get upset with how people were dressing when they were not playing in game.
Yeah,
I really appreciate Kyrie's willingness to just be like, you know what? I'm dressing like I'm going over to my second mom's house and it's Christmas and I don't really want to go. And I'm just here. I'm here. We're going to have fun. Hey, there's nowhere to go where, the Mavericks still have a lot of room. Like, there's not a lot of positives to take away from this many injuries, but I think that the Mavericks have different gears to get to. I don't want to necessarily say better, but I want to say different. And I'm excited to see that as this incredibly long season continues to pan out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Of course, dude. Peace.
All right, coming up next, friend of the program, Doe Dang. But before I bring Doe up on stage, I want to encourage everybody to go and like the stream if you can. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your parents, anybody that wants to listen to the podcast, that wants to participate in this sort of show. We have fun because basketball should be a communal experience, and I enjoy hanging out with you guys even at 1:30 on Monday night. Coming up next, Mr. Dang. What's happening tonight, guy?
Hey, Kirk, you're a madman. I love your enthusiasm.
I'm gonna die tomorrow, but not yet. That's okay. It's okay. We'll be fine.
I agree with you. Those analysts from ESPN were horrible. I always have to turn the mute down and listen to Cooperstein. Which is
Chuck's good.
Better. Chuck's very good. He's my favorite out of all the people that do the shows. But very satisfying. I love beating the Suns. It's one of the top 5 teams in the league that I really rejoice in beating, especially seeing the look on Booker's face. Oh, he had a terrible game, especially the first period. But I was a little upset. Sometimes I wish Kid would call a timeout, tell the guys, hey, quit shooting threes and attack the basket. You have 2-on-3s going to the basket. When Luka gets double teamed, they finally figured that out in the third period and started attacking the rim more. And that's when we really started closing out the game.
Some of that skill. So it's been almost 90 minutes, or I guess it's been almost an hour, and we've not yet made fun of Grant Williams attacking the rim and looking like he got hit by a truck as he tried to jump over a phone book. There's elements of that's why they don't do it, because certain guys just can't. And I'm too old. I don't drive to the rim anymore. Sucks. But I understand what you mean, because you would like to see that. And I think more guys like that come with time. I think that seeing what Dante Exum has been able to do, seeing what Derrick Jones Jr. has been able to do, if Luka Doncic is going to remain a Maverick for the next 2 to 3 years and beyond, which I hope, those are the kind of guys who will start to see. Josh Boser said this repeatedly. He's been on this train for almost 2 years. If you're a mediocre wing, come play with Luka Doncic and let's see what happens.
Oh yeah, you'll get paid without a doubt.
Yep.
The thing that I loved also about this season is Luka just looks like he's playing with a lot of passion, and he's looked like he's having a good time. I mean, the referee, situation with him has been downed a whole lot compared to the previous 3 years. So it's really good to see. He's playing with a lot of joy.
Yep.
And I think it's paying off with the offseason. He looks so much fitter. This 50 that he got is probably the 50 easiest points that I've ever seen anybody score.
25 shots. The only thing closer for me, and at least in the Mavericks uniform, had to be Dirk scoring 48 on, I think it was 14 shots against the Thunder, where he went to the line 25 times. But that was a different kind of game. I mean, hitting 8 threes is bananas. He hit 50% of his 3-pointers. So it's impossible. He's off his rocker right now. I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think he's got his legs, being in better shape, and it's really paying off, But I'm still a little worried about him sustaining this 40-minute clip, in this 10-game stretch that we've been playing, I mean, it's just kind of scary, in some ways,
Yep. It very much is. But I think that he's the kind of tank at this stage in his career where he can deal with it. They do have to find times to rest him like they did against the Rockets, but I don't think he needs that much rest. They need to find more in-game rest for him. And maybe that'll come. We'll see.
I hope so. Lively was just spectacular. It was so great to see him back. I mean, a lot of times you saw Booker and Durant running the rim, but they wouldn't finish when they saw Lively closing down the lane. That was really great to see.
That's right.
Really good to see. So I'm really excited. I hope we get a little more healthy and we put things together and Kid doesn't do anything to blow us up,
Yeah. Man, I appreciate you hanging out. You got anything else for us?
No, sir. Merry Christmas, Kirk.
Merry Christmas. Talk soon, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Coming up next is my man, Brandon, who's been waiting patiently down there. Then we're going to go Micah. Then we're going to go Krishna. If you would like to talk, there should be a pinned link in the YouTube comments, which you can click and come up. You don't need to show your video, though I do like it because I like seeing faces. You can do it from your phone. You can do it from your computer. It's remarkably easy. Brandon, Merry Christmas. I guess happy Boxing Day now for any of us Canadians and people, that celebrate Boxing Day. How you doing, buddy? What's going on?
I'm doing well, Kirk. I hope you and your family are doing well.
Yeah, I've been up for 20 hours now. I'm not dying. So what you think of tonight's game? What's on your mind?
Man, they play good, man. Shout out to Luka. I kind of wish the talking heads and kind of influenced the MVP award so much, but ESPN has so much influence, and just I think social media in general has so much influence over who gets what accolades and who's the quote unquote top 5 and everything. But the proof is in the pudding. The dude's playing really well when he's trying on defense, and he's willing the team to top spots in the Western Conference, and statistically as well too. So regardless of what people say, he's playing at a MVP caliber level, and I just kind of hope that it continues. But like you said, the amount of minutes that he's playing is kind of unheard of. And hopefully, when Kyrie comes back, he'll get to take a breather.
Well, and I this is just a thought I had kind of arbitrarily right now as you mentioned Luka's minutes. So during the regular season, I think scouting reports on teams are kind of skeleton, where it's like these are the sets these guys run. This is certain guys' tendencies, yada yada yada. I think by the time Kyrie comes back, the recent tape on the Mavericks is going to be useless. Mm-hmm. And obviously you want Kyrie to play as much as possible, but there's a little bit of an element of surprise where Kyrie being an X factor is going to be really helpful and going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays with this sort of vibe, because he's not, even before he got hurt, he's had probably 10, maybe 8 games where he had spurts, and maybe 2 games the entire year where he was like, oh, this is the Kyrie Irving of legend. Because Kyrie Irving is he's just the perfect, like, he's like a folklore basketball player because the kind of things he does. It's like Paul Bunyan, only 5'11", or no, he's taller than that. He's 6'3". But I'm really looking forward to that element of him coming back. This team, I think they have a ceiling. I don't want to crap on anybody's feelings, but they're just so confusing to play, because it's like you look at them and you're like, well, it's Luka and a bunch of guys who are 6'4" and Derek Lively, and then they come and score 108 points on you. Like, what are you supposed to do about that?
I kind of hope that kid, and Kyrie, to me, he showed that he could play 1A and 1B when they won a championship with Cleveland. So I don't think he would have a problem with being 1B, especially if they decide to do, like, I guess you could say, the quote-unquote blue team, green team, or green team, white team, however they want to split up the roster to have Kyrie, or however they want to do it. I just kind of hope that kid doesn't place all of the scoring or potential scores in, the starting lineup, because I think he has talent to where he doesn't need everybody that can score on the floor at first. Because if that happens, it seems like it could hinder some of the guys, like maybe hinder Exum, or maybe hinder somebody else that could, well, maybe not even Exum, or like Jones Jr. or somebody, as opposed to doing something strategic, like, kind of maybe what Rick would do, kind of, fluctuate the lineup or try to put people in place to succeed instead of just putting all of the scores, in at once, which I don't think would be really conducive. But I definitely think that he wouldn't have a problem being, 1A, 1B. And I think the Suns right now are having a hard time, seeing who's the alpha, and, with it being one basketball, getting everybody the opportunity to shine. Durant, he was excellent at Golden State because there was unselfishness, all around everybody. But now these guys are just so ball dominant, just because that's just how they are.
Yeah.
And Cooper C made a point. He was like that, super team is kind of out the window because, look, you got these 3 players sucking up all the money, and they've only played together. I forgot how many minutes he said they played together.
It's like 25. It's something insane.
It's crazy. All that money and, all that talent, but they've only played together so much. But he brought the point, like, it's kind of, out the door. And you got like just Kyrie and Luka, you got enough cash flow. You should have enough cash flow to kind of build a roster, as opposed to like the super team. And I'm just kind of hoping that kid doesn't have a super team mentality and try to shove everybody in the starting lineup.
I don't think so, because the Mavericks, when they won the title, I get killed for this take, but I think that like Caron Butler getting hurt was bad for the regular season, but my take was that it was good for establishing a pecking order, because that year prior against the Spurs, Butler took more shots in that series than Dirk Nowitzki, which is insane.
Right.
And I think there's, these guys who have played on championship level rosters understand sort of role placement. And, maybe I'm wrong about Butler. It's neither here nor there. But I think that when you watch it, like the fact that the Mavericks, I think they're now 8-5 without Kyrie. And so Kyrie's a smart guy, like brilliant guy, realistically. He knows what's going to work best. He'll figure it out. And so it's like, if everybody sort of knows their position, I don't think the Mavericks have any interest in building a super team. I just think they have an interest in building the best possible team that can go win games. I mean, there's, they got, the Mavericks moved on from Casey Smith. And sometimes I feel like their medical staff is like Dr. Nick from The Simpsons. And maybe I'm wrong, but these new rules with awards and stuff resulting in guys playing more has been extraordinarily helpful for the Mavericks and Luka, because Luka by now would have sat 3 games. He just would have. Right. And instead he's on the court every night and they're racking up wins. I mean, what are they now? The Mavericks are now
18-12.
18-12. Holy shit, man.
But and Kirk, what's so crazy is that, the Mavs kind of swore by Casey Smith as being like this top guru type guy, but a lot of guys stay hurt. I kind of wonder if, it's also a lot of the guys really going in more focused, like Luka, going in more focused. He, kind of, I think in an article he kind of admitted he wasn't going to drink as much, and he was going to kind of focus more on conditioning and everything. So I kind of wonder if a lot of that is attributed to, the guys going in more dedicated than they did last year. Because
I think that's right.
The way that they're playing is also kind of a testimony of, if that's the case, of hard work. Because think about Hardaway. Someone could, I guess it may be far-fetched, but all the charges he's taking and the effort that he's putting in is a lot, showing that he could be up for, kind of most improved player. He's not playing the best defense, but it's significantly different than what he did. Those 19 charges, a lot of them people could say this a lot like somebody just trying to chase down blocks, but at the same time, he's getting those calls and he's kind of leading the league. And plus he's being more consistent, on the court.
Yep.
So I kind of wonder if that kind of carries over from, him going in laser focused. And also think about this, the Mavs, they're shooting way a higher percentage within the paint, within the 3 points, kind of 50%, something like that. So it may not seem like a lot more, but they're scoring a lot more in the paint. And I would like to see them shoot more, kind of step in some, but they're definitely scoring more within the paint. And I kind of wonder if all of this is just, kind of a testimony of what dedication will get them guys.
Love it. Brandon, I hope you had a pretty good day, and this is a great way to end the night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. You got anything else?
No, sir. Thank you, Kirk.
All right, have a good one. Talk soon. I have no idea when the Mavericks play next. That's been my favorite thing that happens after almost every game, where you can just tell that I'm living game by game, despite the fact that I run a website. All right, we have 2 folks left, Micah and Krishna. If anybody else wants to come up, we got nearly 300 people here hanging out live. There's got to be somebody else that wants, brand new folk that wants to come tell me something that they're thinking. Guys, it's supposed to be fun. I'm having fun. I look terrible. I have a face for radio. That's sort of the nature of this. But I'm having a great time. I don't want to go to bed because when I get up in the morning, that means I have responsibilities, things like that. All right, Krishna, what's up, man? And Mike is going to close this out.
Kirk, how are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Got some books for Christmas, got some socks, and the youth of the chat will probably not understand the value of good socks, but I do now. I'm there. I'm at that point in my life. What's going on?
Nothing much. I don't know. I don't really know what I was expecting for this game. I felt pretty good with all the injury reports and everything. I think getting Lively back, like you can just see the impact he has for this team immediately. 20-10 is still ridiculous. Like, I think we're getting to the point where it's like, oh, yeah, 20-10. That's very, very good. And it's like, it's insane that that's already kind of like normal. Luka talked about it in his presser. Like, he trusts him a lot, that he's playing like a 10-year vet. Probably over exaggeration, but in the sense that you can see that there's a trust there, which I think is easy to build when you have someone who, as Luka talked about, he just trusts him and he's paying it off, right? I think it's one thing to trust your teammate, and then it's another thing to actually pay it off. Like, I think about I don't remember when it was in the fourth quarter, but it was later in the fourth quarter where I think Tim throws it to, and maybe it was Tim or someone, I don't remember. It was from the left side of the three, throws it to Lively, and he does a reverse dunk. And that's like not even the first time he's done that this season. But I think about how many centers could actually do that. And I don't know if there are that many. And so he's been sensational. And then obviously everyone's probably talked about it at this point, but it's kind of insane how good Luka has been all season. And the consistency is something we just haven't seen. I think minus one game, it's just been phenomenal. And there's nothing I can complain about. And I'm glad that it's that way. And all the MVP stuff, I get it. But I also think it's such a long season. The narratives change so quickly. I think at this point last year, everyone was vying and saying Jokic is for sure the MVP. And it shows that, I think it goes to show that the narrative always changes very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah. It's too long a season.
It's too long a season. And I get what you're saying, right? Right now, I would say, yes, I agree. I think Embiid's probably the likelihood favorite just because of their record. But I think one thing that's going to hurt his narrative is if he keeps missing these big games, his playoff record is going to kill him, and him missing a lot of games is going to kill him. So it's not something I'm like super, I don't know what to say, amped about. Like, I'm not completely following it as closely just because it's a little too early in the season for me to care that much. But I think just like everyone, I'm invested. And I hope he gets it. Obviously, him and Dirk are kind of similar in that way, where they're never going to publicly recognize or like acknowledge the fact that they want to win that trophy, but you would obviously want them to have it because
right,
they're deserving players of it. So that'd be cool. And then just in terms of the roster, I get all the frustrations. I'm not going to shy away from the fact, like, I don't try to bash players super hard or super, I don't know, I guess like a lot, but
better man than I am.
Well, I just always think like you never know what player is going to do what in what situation. Also, like, I think about like if I'm going to say something, or especially like in a platform like this, or like on social media, like even if no one's going to see it, like if I said that to their face, like would I have the courage to say it to their face?
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of why, and it's just a personal thing, right? I need to like make this clear. If you want to say whatever you want to say,
sure,
feel free to do it. Like everyone's open to it. It's just for me personally, and so. But I can admit, like, Grant has just not been good. He's not been good. And I think it's more than a deserved benching, and he needs to kind of look in.
It's not a benching. It's just he's not been good enough to play in the starting role. And so until he makes the case, if he makes the case to start again, that is all for the good for the Mavericks.
For sure. And part of it is, like, this is something very similar to Luka, where I feel like this would have happened last year with Luka. Like, yeah, I think should Booker have probably gotten a flagrant on that foul? Sure. But you can't let that, you can't let that continue. Like, you can't give the other team a reason to make you do stupid things, which is the thing is. And part of it comes with the youth and the inexperience. And he's still young. Like, I think it's easy to forget that. He's played a lot of years, but he's still relatively young. And I'm not giving him a pass. That's my reasoning for it. But other than that, I feel like if that's really the worst thing that happened from this game, the fact that you got a really great Derek Jones Jr. game, I think helps. And you and Josh have talked about it. It's not that these guys are superstar or elite level role players. It's just that they're very talented role players. They're guys who can step up in situations that you need. And, we often feel like, oh, we want everyone hitting on all cylinders. But the reality is no team has every single player playing to their best capabilities at all times. Typically, you want your superstars doing that. And then you want 2 or 3 other guys to come along for the ride. And it feels like in this stretch, which I thought would be a gauntlet, and we still kind of have a gauntlet. You wondered who we were playing. We're playing Cleveland in Dallas on Wednesday, and then the next day we go to Minnesota, which is
the Cleveland game is a trap game.
It's a trap game because Cleveland,
they're pretty good, and we're not going to take them seriously. Not to cut in on here. Somebody listened to the show. Adam Hurley said, "You guys only beat the bad teams," and I want to point out that that's a big step for these Dallas Mavericks because they used to not beat the bad teams and only beat the good teams.
I mean, last year is solid evidence for that. In a point where their season was on the line, they lost 2 back-to-back games to the Charlotte Hornets. So say whatever you want. They're not a good team. They were not a good team then.
Right.
So it's clearly this team has. I think part of it is Luka, right? Like Luka as a leader has grown, where he's clearly wisened up to the fact that like if he wants to actually win, like keep these narratives about like the team not winning and stuff quiet, he has to beat these teams that are bad. And I give the Mavs credit; they've been doing really well. Like I feel like there's been so many times in this season where it's like, oh, this is a trap game. This is a trap game. Really, the only game where I feel like that's happened and it's kind of come to consequence was probably that Nuggets game last week, where just pretty much everyone was tired and out, and then the Rockets game. But it's like 2 games, which I can be good with. Whereas when Luka's been playing, it feels like they've had a chance in every game of the season, which is pretty rare, pretty special. But I think I was just talking about role players, but it's just been great. Like a game, Dante had a solid game, not a great game, kind of in foul trouble, but you just felt like guys stepped up, and you just talked about it. Guys stepped up in the fourth quarter when they needed to, and
huge.
It's refreshing. It's just a refreshing change.
It was, and it was the kind of game where I was like walking around my living room and my kitchen, and just being a shit, and like I had a great time. I had a great I was I was emoting as the proper description. It was fun. It was so much fun, man.
It's I think it's better when it's the Suns too, just because they could have drafted Luka.
Well, they could have drafted Luka, and because Devin Booker is really quite handsome, and they're in the West Coast, because if this was an East Coast media market, Booker would not have been able to get away with this shit. He stormed off like a priss during the post game stuff. That hilarious Mark Jackson account said something to the effect of, "With all due respect, this is not a rivalry." And it's like, that's because it's not a rivalry. But I appreciate how much these two don't like each other. Like there's this special punch to a game because everybody, Luka and Jokic like each other. I think Luka and Durant like each other, but like Booker and Luka hate each other. And it fills my heart with a special kind of sports joy with that kind of thing. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's funny because when Luka was drafted before the KP trade happened, I actually wanted the Mavs to go out and get Booker when the Suns were historically horrific, because I felt like Booker is, I still feel this way. I don't think Booker will ever be a first option on a championship team. I don't think he's good enough as a shooting guard to do that. He just doesn't have the passing skills, and he's not consistent enough in big moments as a shooter.
Well, their offense also gave me like low-key Luka without the Mavericks without Luka vibes, where it was like dribble, one screen shot. It's like, ugh, they need something different. I think Booker's actually quite a talented point guard, but they need an offense.
I don't know. I just don't think he's great. He doesn't make the right reads every single time. Like if you're a really elite point guard, like for as much as we like clown on Chris Paul, the reason Chris Paul has had the longevity he's had is because his ability to make the right reads is next to none, especially considering his size. And Booker, he's just never done that in his career up to this point. And so having him do that, he's had moments of doing it this season, but he's not done it consistently, 1 over his career and 2 over this season. And the better teams are going to force you into mistakes, force you to play, force you to make make your toughest moments, try to make something happen. That's what makes Luka, Jokic, LeBron really great, is even in a situation where they're quote unquote negative players, specifically on offense, they can still get something done, whether it's making their team, getting a team that needs a shot, whatever. And I don't think Booker, I'm not going to say Booker could never get there. I shouldn't say that, but he's not there yet. And I think that's what is holding him back. And I look at the Suns overall and, all the offseason talk about their signings. And I look and I say, look, those guys are good players, but they're all good if they're your 10th to 15th guy on your roster. Where
that's right.
You have 1 or 2 injuries. They're going to come in for a few games. That's fine. But when you're asking Chimezie Metu and, you're asking Okogie, and you're asking, obviously Grayson had a good game tonight, but you're asking these guys to be your sixth, your fourth, your fifth, now your third player at times. It's just not going to be viable, especially when Kevin Durant, he's just getting older. Like, that's just the hard truth. I mean, it's a miracle he came off the Achilles at that time and played so well. And so I don't know, that's just the Suns. They have their own problems. But for me, I think it's just been encouraging. Like, I think I obviously want this team to win a championship, but I also know, my brain has one thing where it's like, I know realistically this team is probably not going to, but in my heart, I'm just also enjoying that this team is playing winning basketball. And some of the games, yes, they're not comfortable, but it's exciting to feel like the team has had a chance in most of these games that they've played in, which is something I feel like we haven't always been able to say. It feels like when we've gotten these wins, it feels almost like, oh, wow, I don't know how we did it. And now it feels like there's almost a formula, like a consistency to this team is going to fight back. They're not going to let malaise take over them, which is something we saw a lot last year and even the year before. And I think that's something positive, and hopefully it continues. And, I'm not going to take anyone's night up too long more, but everyone take care and have a great night.
You too, man. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'm bringing up my guy, Micah, here last. But before we close out, I want to note, head on over to MavsMoneyball.com. If you're not able to sleep, one of our guys, Isaac, turned in 1,800 words on Luka Doncic scoring 10,000 points for his career. It starts off as a bit of a newser, but then he breaks down just how the 10,000 points happened. Great work. Was really excited to get it for a Christmas Day game. There's also, the recap. I apparently have to go write a post after this, which I cannot tell you how not pleased I am about that, but it's my own fault. I run the website. I could have literally given out to somebody else, but I'm a fucking moron. Micah, welcome to the show.
Kirk, how's it going?
Well, it's going. I got to think how to get through tomorrow. I got my 7-year-old home with me. We might be playing some video games. We might be I invested one of his Christmas presents was this cool product called Dribble Up, which uses the iPad and it teaches like sports classes. I'm going to be real tired, going to be injecting caffeine into my eyeballs, but right now I'm having a great time. So what's going
on? Well, let's start off with the obvious. 15, 7, 4, and 3 is just preposterous. That is a dawn. That is what a top 5 player can do for a team.
That's right. That's right.
And it's just like he has to be the greatest equalizer in sports. It's like he changes you from a bottom tier team to automatic contender. Like what he's doing on the court is just amazing. He's reviving careers out here, Kirk. These guys didn't have a spot in the league. They're taking Bettmans, and now all of a sudden they're looking like borderline all-stars. Like, we're doing this with 19-year-old rookies. Like, what are we doing here? Like, if that's not MVP type stuff, I don't know what is.
It's a good take. That's a good take. I like that one. I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah. So, well, what else? What else did you see tonight? What else did you? Is there anything you didn't like?
I didn't really see much that I didn't like. I mean, unless I'm talking about from the Phoenix side.
Sure, we can make fun of the Suns. We've been here nearly 90 minutes. Let's make fun of the Suns.
Who they got on their roster that guards the dudes? Like we're keeping it, like Becky Hammond said, we're keeping it brass taxes.
Sure.
If you're trying to win a championship, you need two components to your team.
That's right.
You need a dude, and you need someone who guards the dudes. So who on the Suns guards the dudes?
I like the take because they don't, who's the I don't even have the box score pulled up anymore. Who should it be? Josh Okogie, maybe? Keita Bates Diop are those like maybe the two? I mean, I suppose you would
But
say.
they're like Vanderbilt.
Sure.
They're so negative offensively that you can't have them on the floor.
I mean, Grant Williams is like, I don't think you risk not Grant Williams. Ted Cruz. What the fuck? What's his name?
Grayson Allen.
Grayson Allen. Yeah, you don't risk Grayson Allen because he might cause like an international incident with how he plays defense.
Yeah.
So,
but it's like if it's just like that's just like getting the brass tacks. That's basketball convictions. If you've watched the sports for a long time, it's those two components.
I mean, I would say,
do you have a top 7 dude? Do you have somebody that can guard a top 7 dude?
Yeah.
If the answer to either one of those or not, you're not winning.
That's right. You know, it's tough. I mean, I feel like the Mavericks have sort of similar problems. Only when Luka is so good offensively, sometimes it doesn't matter. They desperately need Grant Williams, and I've decided that Grant Williams is late stage Nation of Domination D'Lo Brown. That's an old person reference. We're talking like late 90s WWE shit where, you know, D'Lo Brown's is out there shaking his head, talking to shit, and then losing matches on SmackDown. Because that's like, we need Grant Williams to step up because he is burnt toast on the defensive end so often. Now, I get it. He had 3 blocks tonight. Sure. He's not terrible in as a help defender and in the lane, but like, I can't stand watching the man get beat off single dribble moves. That shit drives me crazy.
He's a slower guy. That's just kind of almost the defense that he's meant to play. That's why he look. I'm a big KD fan. I love his game, but the reason that Grant looks like he has good possessions against him is KD can't handle physicality.
Yep.
So that's why somebody that's big like Grant and like with the size that he's got too can just body you. He bothers finesse players.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, even though I'm saying for a team, it's just like, I mean, just an amazing revelation. You got to give Nico props on this. But if you're even looking at somebody like Dante Exum, like, I can trust him to guard at top guard. And then he's not going to be so much of a negative offensively, so I can keep him on the floor.
Right. No, I can see
so
that.
It's just different aspects for the team, and I don't feel like they have that in Phoenix, and I think that's part of why KD is frustrated. That's why the reports are coming out. But I mean, he keeps on doing it to himself.
That's where I settle with him. That's where I settle with him for sure. But I will take him on the Dallas Mavericks for the low price of Jaden Hardy. And that's all.
Absolutely.
Grant Williams, Jaden Hardy, and Grant Williams.
Check it out. We got you, Timmy, Rashawn Holmes, and whatever else.
You want some depth? Here's some depth. We got it. Good man.
Please throw you up first.
All right. Well, I'm going to clear out because I got to go to bed soon. Thanks so much for staying up late and talking with us. All right.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, Kirk.
Merry Christmas as well, big guy. Talk soon. All right, guys. Thank you so much. If you could go, I'm going to close out this video here in about 15 seconds. If you could go and leave a comment on the actual video itself, go click the like button, all that stuff. I'd really appreciate it. Those of you who are listening to an audio form of the show, please consider coming and joining the YouTube show. We have a great, great time. Merry Christmas to everyone. Have a great Boxing Day if you celebrate. We'll be back the next time the Dallas Mavericks play basketball. Thanks so much for hanging out. Go Mavs.